City of mine, how I love the city of mine.
GANGGANG is a cultural development firm on a mission to produce, promote, and preserve culture in cities. So we're starting right here in Indianapolis to find
Molly and Alan Bacon, embracing their hometown, paying it forward by giving local artists once in the shadows a chance to shine in the spotlight. The incredible story behind GANGGANG, the Indianapolis couple who brought it to life, their passion for pushing the creative economy forward, and GANGGANG's big role in putting Central Indiana creatives on center stage for NBA All-Star Weekend. GANGGANG co-founder Alan Bacon, my guest this week on the Business and Beyond podcast. Hello and welcome to the Business and Beyond podcast presented by PNC. I'm Gary Dick. GANGGANG is one of those positive byproducts of the pandemic and racial unrest that followed the death of George Floyd back in 2020. It's the brainchild of Indianapolis natives Molly and Alan Bacon. They were looking for a way to bring people together through art, music, and culture. One of Alan's famous quotes, "A city is a dreadful place when its creatives aren't dreaming." And I'm really pleased to be joined on the podcast this week by the co-founder of GANGGANG, an Indianapolis native, Alan Bacon. Alan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Greg.
You bet. Hey, you have a ton going on, and there's a lot we can talk about with the organization, but in particular, this week with the NBA All-Star Game, you are very intimately involved in that. And we want to talk about that. But first, to tee things up, for those who might not know about GANGGANG, because I think it's a fascinating story, what you've created along with your wife, Molly Simone Jeffers, and talk about GANGGANG, what GANGGANG is all about. You described it as a cultural development, social justice organization. Give us the thumbnail description of GANGGANG.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, man. So I think myself, Molly, we're sitting in the crux of everything 2020, and the crux of from George Floyd and the racial pandemic to the health pandemic and COVID. And I think it was an opportunity to understand of, being in a situation of just the world seemed so separate. And we knew that culture and art is something that could bring the world together after, experiencing what that separatism, felt like. So that was the genesis of GANGGANG, to bring people together. I mean, our mission is to increase beauty, equity, and culture in cities by activating the creative economy. So it's all about the artists. It's all about just that amplification of the message and narrative in the city.
And really focused, right, on artists who are underappreciated, underrepresented. I guess that's really your target.
I mean, all artists, just the moniker of the starving artist, I mean, is real. So I mean, I think, this platform has allowed us to advocate, for art, and also to look at art from a lens of culture too, which you also are alluding to, which that's a big part of the narrative as it relates to authorship and advocacy for artists.
Yeah. Well, you talk about the genesis for GANGGANG during the pandemic, such a terrible time, but yet there are stories like yours. They're really positive that came out of that very difficult time. Talk about maybe that moment when you realize that, hey, maybe this is a thing we ought to do.
I would talk about just like one of the big moments. I think within the first 6 months of our life cycle was March Madness, and then the city hosting the tournament here. I mean, that was an opportunity for GANGGANG to really showcase and show what beauty and equity and culture looks like on that scale. I mean, we curated over 260 live performances that happened within that 4-weekend period that really elevated our creative sector and really provided a platform for artists. That's the mission.
Why do you think you're seeing this success that you are seeing? Because what you're talking about, I think others have talked about it in the past, but you've taken that, kind of that idea, that germination, the germ of an idea, and made things happen. I think part of it, from my standpoint, is You both have such a positive outlook and an inclusive kind of mindset about it. But why do you think you're gaining so much traction with your efforts?
I think just innately, culture and art is what connects people. So I mean, it's also, I mean, in looking at, taking down constructs, a lot of constructs that have prevented, I think people, specifically American people, from coming together in a very true and authentic way. So I think, part of what we're trying to do is just tell the truth about America's creative culture, tell the truth about how we are experiencing these ebbs and flows through life, and how art has been just in the center of that messaging and that communication. And it's like, what is the story we want to tell today? Like how, and it could be any story we want to tell. I mean, it's art. So I think, we're leaning in these moments of what seems to be anarchy, like just the 2020 moment and what that is. I mean, leaning into art has allowed us to recover, has allowed us to heal, allows us to have conversations where we can connect in a very true and authentic way. I mean, things like butter is also a tactic that, we've created to test this theory of art and this ability to bring people together and connect people with one another. So I think it's almost innate. So just providing a platform where that connectivity can happen at scale is something that we've been successful in, something that everyone contributes in as well.
I think the creative class in Indianapolis, and maybe more broadly the Midwest, tends to, generally speaking, get looked over. It's not Chicago, it's not New York or LA or whatever the case might be, Nashville and the country music scene. But is what you are finding, because I hear it all the time, there are a lot of really talented people, creative people right here, and GANGGANG is maybe bringing that to the surface?
Yeah, and it's not new. I mean, this is I think we're probably bringing, the spirit, more alive of the talent, and just, allowing, marketing to do its thing, and just really, start to promote, the city in more audacious ways and bold ways, and tell the stories that are happening. But, from Indiana Avenue to the greats there, to even, there's a time period in the 90s where we had Michael Jackson, Babyface, and John Mellencamp. Yeah, I mean, like, so just how that narrative doesn't necessarily seem to ever, die or fold. It's just our ability just to tell the stories in the moment. And just, we've been grateful to have, sports as a mainstay in our city that has allowed us the ability to tell these stories at scale. I mean, whether it's, Super Bowl or hosting, the whole entire, NCAA March Madness tournament here, or All-Star next week. It's provided this lens on the city that, can show just the true essence of the city, which is the core, the culture, which is the core of any city. And artists are right there in the foundation of that.
Yeah, we'll want to get into the NBA stuff here in a second, but you've talked a little bit about it, but give folks some examples of how you're doing what you do in terms of elevating artists and others, the cultural, creative class in Indianapolis, how GANGGANG is actually doing it and what the results, because you've got a lot of great stories, I think, to tell.
No, thank you so much for just allowing this moment to happen and that question. And I think I would want to talk just generally just about butter and maybe why butter exists. It's about authorship. It's about economic justice. It's about understanding just the contributions of artists of color, Black artists specifically for butter, and allowing that narrative to have a much more brighter tone in a much more equitable way. So one of the, ideas of butter is to sell 100% of all the works and give 100% of the proceeds back to the artists. I mean, that's what equity, looks like. And there needs to be some type of sacrifice of privilege in order to realize equity. And that's kind of just our definition of how we, describe it. And, that sacrifice of a privilege is allowing 100% of the proceeds to go back to the artists. And these are artists that, are participating in other festivals. And, traditionally, I mean, you're having these commissions, the fees taken from artists upwards to 40 to 50% of their commission on their work. So this is a actual, what the New York Times has called as a new equitable, way to view and experience art fairs. I mean, this is what that looks like. So creating a butter where you're selling this artwork where everybody agrees the value maybe is amazing. but like the worth is the cost associated to the value. So this challenges that dichotomy of value and worth. So I'll sell it 500 here on the street, but in the context of butter, in this environment where my art pieces are now amongst some of the greats nationally and world renowned, now they can see and view this art for the worth that it is. So now $500 is $5,000 to an artist. So what does that do? Not to challenge, that dichotomy between worth and value, but as an artist, that's the equitable way and approach to of economic justice.
How about the support that you've received? Because to do what you do, you've got to have funding yourself, right? And I know PNC, the longtime sponsor of this podcast,
Yeah.
I think was one of the first supporters of yours. Talk about that support you received from the business community.
Yeah, it's public sector has really stood up, in this moment, and I think that there are, at the time of 2020, there were statements, and then there were statements. I think there's a lot of statements that were words, and there's other statements that require work, that represents work. So I think that was part of the work to us is understanding like what this narrative means and what this thing can do. From an impactful lens of equity. And yeah, you have the PNCs of the world and the AESs of the world and the Citizens Gas of the world and the Elements Financial. Just so many, businesses within the public sector that are getting it and finding, pathways to invest in the creative economy. And just, GANGGANG is just one of those ways. There's so many, artists and organizations and people doing cool things in the city that we can get behind. And you can see how it's making a difference in the city that we live in today. So that's beautiful.
Well, let's talk about your next big thing among many big things, and that's the NBA All-Star Weekend, really All-Star Week. It's all week, all kinds of things going on. You're partnering, GANGGANG really leading that cultural development and focus, because the All-Star Game is about sports, it's about basketball, obviously, but arts and culture is a big piece of that. Talk about GANGGANG's role and what folks are going to see downtown.
Yeah. So myself and Molly, we are grateful to the Pacers organization to bring us in as co-chairs alongside Julie Goodman, Arts Council, and Kira Armstead from Indiana Humanities. So we're having a great team as co-chairs, leading this new committee for All-Star, the Arts and Culture Committee. And it really is about what does beauty, equity, and culture look like in the core of our downtown. So the host committee has created a great platform called Indy's Home Court, where it allows us some room to play. We're transforming spaces downtown. We're leading with culture. We're thinking about music. We're thinking about food. We're thinking about fashion. We're thinking about retail. We're thinking about entertainment and activations and lights and sounds and everything that you would experience that would say that I enjoyed my city. So that's pretty much our main role. Like, how can we increase beauty, equity, and culture in the most cool ways, as we are going to invite over 100,000 guests into our city, and we wanted to show them the best of Indianapolis. And it's also an opportunity for Indianapolis to understand and remind itself how cool we are.
Well, hey, talk about the culture, because it's a cultural corridor, and as I understand it, there are three locations, right? So talk about how the cultural corridor is going to take shape.
Yeah, so the cultural corridor, so we're taking the former Pairings location, the former Rock Bottom location, and connecting that to the Arts Garden. So right off of Washington Street is the formation of the corridor. So beginning at Pairings, we'll have Plaid and Pearls, local owner Carrie Hughes, coffee shop manifestation, Dream Come to Life. There will also be the stop and starting point for Samson Livingston. He's going to have some all-star tours. That's going to be super cultural and cool. The only way that that can happen is through Samson, and just that level of energy and entertainment and also education for our residents and visitors. Right next door to Plaid and Pearls, you'll be in a former Rock Bottom space. So we're transforming that entire space. Alan Henderson's bar will be in there. We'll feature, I think, over 10 restaurants from the international marketplace. There's going to be Therese in the basement. Shout out to OJ and just like all the work that they've done to create this new and vibrant hip hop festival in the city. Cargo, retail, shopping, Howl and Hide, and just anything and everything that you could think of, just like a one-stop shop of all the entertainment goods. outside of that space, venturing a bit more west to the Arts Garden. That's going to be the home of Butters. It's going to be the first time Butter is going to have a life outside of Labor Day weekend in Indianapolis. So we're pleased to kind of offer this Butter Light, quote unquote, is kind of what we're calling it. But it's going to be some awesome artwork. We've curated an amazing show that's going to really see more of just the basketball flavor within, some of the visual representation. So it'll be a nice fitting piece and caveat to the NBA experience and what we're doing here culturally. And then we'll also end with a creative summit that's not to miss, and we'll have some key people and celebrities involved in that too. So there's a lot of things going on.
That is a lot. That is a lot. And it would seem that the NBA All-Star event as a canvas, if you will. I saw a quote that you had. I think it was a quote. You called the NBA a cultural incubator. Talk about that, because it would seem that all the things you're talking about, all the things that are going to happen, they kind of really do connect. Yeah.
I mean, at the core of the NBA is Black culture. And just that incubation, comes with the freedom that the athletes can now, stretch outside of, the athleticism that they're showing on the court and dive into also the artistry of their culture. So you see a lot of the fashion that you'll see over All-Star Weekend, represented with the players, just the music and just all the different, cultural aspects that makes the game, what it is today, exciting. You'll find the same beauty, equity, and cultural aspects within every city.
Talk about one other quote before we go to the break here, Alan, and that is, you had indicated, let me see if I can find it. Yeah. A city is a dangerous place when creatives stop dreaming. And I thought that was a really good quote. And I think, probably very germane, very, timely for the city like Indianapolis. When you talk about that, a dangerous place to be when creatives stop dreaming. What did you mean by that?
I think artists are the lifebloods of society. We're the heroes of society. Artists is what makes cities beautiful and equitable and cultural. And then when you have these individuals without pathways to dive into the art, to produce art, platforms to make art, then your city is in a dreadful place, because you're not getting any life invested back into your city. So that's we're investing in artists. Therefore, we can produce more life, and just in those dreams that are coming. One of those dreams is GANGGANG. One of those dreams is Tip Off. One of those dreams is just the Creative Summit. One of those teams, all these things that were like Butter and just like, being able to act in this, not just GANGGANG. Our entire city is coming alive. The NBA host committee has put together a volunteer package of the who's who of the city to work on this thing. And it's a special moment, and artists understand we're always kind of ready to answer the bell and the call, and we're dreaming again. And it's not just the artists. I mean, it's the city, it's everybody, and it feels good to be in Indianapolis.
Lots going on indeed with GANGGANG, and certainly this week in particular with the NBA All-Star Game in town. Much more with Alan Bacon, the co-founder at GANGGANG, when we return. Stay with us.
At PNC Bank, we're committed to making a difference in the lives of our customers and communities by helping them move forward financially. As a Main Street bank, we try to do right by our customers with every encounter. Our local teams offer personalized financial advice to help guide you in making the best decision. We're proud to be part of your community. PNC Bank. See how we can make a difference for you at pnc.com. Copyright 2022, the PNC Financial Services Group, Inc., all rights reserved.
Welcome back to the Business and Beyond podcast presented by PNC. My guest this week, a very busy guy, Alan Bacon, the co-founder at GANGGANG, cultural development and social justice organization that was really spawned during the pandemic and has grown exponentially and is center stage this week at the NBA All-Star Weekend and week events as well. Alan, we talked about the creation of GANGGANG, what it's all about, what it's accomplishing. To me, one of the other things that has to be an output of what you're doing is everybody talks about talent and the need to attract talent and to keep talent, not just here in Indianapolis, all over the country. it would seem to me your efforts and what it is portraying about the city probably has a real connection to that talent development and talent attraction issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, thank you for that question. I think part of the issue of attracting talent is just the narrative of a city. Yeah. So understanding kind of like what is the current narrative and giving the headline something bright to speak about, I think is a strong component of like people. There's Google, there's Meta, there's social media, there's all these things that are constantly telling people how cool a city is. So I think that's one of the things that's from a talent attraction standpoint is providing more platforms for beauty, equity, and culture to live and cultivate and grow, but at the same time like changing the headline and just like how important a headline can be. And shout out to the IADC and Visit Indy for we're working as partners on a lot of different initiatives. So I think we see the positive turn of what's happening in the city, and that's definitely helpful for talent attraction and retention.
Yeah, your perspective on that is very real because you're a native. Grew up in Indianapolis, as did your wife, Molly,
yeah.
Both Indy natives. Talk about growing up in Indianapolis, what that was like for you.
Growing up in Indianapolis, man, I think, one of the things that we've appreciated with just like our time here, I think maybe as young professionals, just like the opportunity and the access to leadership and mentors and giving chances to fail and to build things and create things and to have ideas. And it's one of the things about, that quote of, city being in a dreadful place when it's creative stop. I mean, we're those creatives, the dream came in 2020 and to see the manifestation in this way is really special and humbling.
And well, so tell me about how you met your wife, how you met Molly, because she's just an integral part, obviously, of the organization as well. Both grew up in Indianapolis. How did you guys meet?
Yeah, so Melina has a career in art administration. She's worked at the Arts Council of Indianapolis, the Madam Walker. She's done so much on her own, just like supporting artists. My background was in for-profit education, but I'm also an artist myself. So that's where kind of like the worlds intertwined. But we actually met just through the Indy Chamber, through the leadership, capital there. And just networking and those things. We met in Nashville, actually on a leadership exchange trip.
Okay, yeah. As you look at Indianapolis now and that narrative, what do you think the narrative is of Indianapolis from outside? Back to that whole talent thing, as you said, very easy to get a quote unquote to get a narrative about a city online or various places through social media, et cetera. What do you think Indy's narrative is now?
Yeah, I think Indy has a narrative of curiosity, of like, I wonder what's going on in that city. I mean, you have Source Magazine talking about Indianapolis, Fast Company, Inc. Magazine, the New York Times, and multiple articles, Forbes. I mean, there's a lot of buzz that I think, is creating more of a curiosity like of what's going on. And I think, and now we're utilizing and leveraging those opportunities to say exactly what's going on and just kind of, unveil just the coolness and the cultural aspects of our city that the world needs to know.
As you sit here now, so much going on for you and Indianapolis, and just as you look at the changing downtown with the big projects that are unfolding now downtown that I think can transform the city yet again. What's your vision as you look, Alan Bacon, GANGGANG, as you look for what you want to accomplish and how you want to be connected to whatever is next for Indianapolis, what's your vision for the city?
Our mission is to increase beauty, equity, and culture. So as it relates to how that manifests in the next 5 to 10 years, for me, the ultimate vision is to see the public, private, and philanthropic sector wrapping themselves around that narrative. And then understanding that artists are the core and the crux and the chief cornerstone of making that thing happen. What does that look like? I have no idea.
Yeah.
That's the beautiful thing about it.
That's probably a good thing, right?
It's amazing. And that's kind of like we're centering on this work on love and support and beauty. So this, as long as that's it's kind of like our guideposts, we know good things are happening and impactful things are happening all around us. So that's the pull, man. And we have 5 teenagers between us, 4 at Brebeuf, go Braves, and 1 at IU. So I mean, it's a lot of this. I mean, we're thinking just the future of our kids, and there's 5 years from now, like what's the city that they're going to be returning to when they're home from college? I mean, are they going to want to stay? So all those things we're trying to answer. Man, I think as long as things feel like butter, I think we'll be in a good place in the future. Yeah.
What you mentioned, the support you've received along the way. Talk a little bit about that, because Indianapolis, I think, has a good reputation for a big little town, however you want to describe it, and mentoring and networking and connecting is an important part of the city's success. How important was that in terms of people reaching out to you and mentoring or offering support?
It's paramount. I mean, it's unquestionable. The biggest resources in Indianapolis is our human capital.
What are folks going to see when they go downtown, Alan, this All-Star Week? All the things you've talked about in terms of the arts and the culture and a lot of really cool things that folks might be surprised at seeing in downtown Indianapolis. What's that experience going to be like for folks?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of cool things to see. We have like 24, giant basketballs that artists have just, taken over this. I mean, it's going to be a lot of, cool optics, but I think, it's more or less going to be a cool feeling. That's going to be something that people are going to, really take away from their experience, just how they've just enjoyed being around people, enjoyed being around things that are cultural. And people necessarily won't know, but that's how you connect. You connect through food and music and fashion and being around each other and sharing stories and seeing, your loved ones and people that you admire. So all that stuff is happening in one place. It's going to produce just good energy, for the city, which, I can't wait to experience.
Yeah.
And it's what we experience. Like, honestly, we're providing this for the world. But it's what we experience routinely here already in Indianapolis. So it's just providing us a bigger platform.
Yeah, that's a good point, because what you're talking about, what you're doing, this event is a chance to really shine the spotlight on it and really kind of a coming out, party for the city of Indianapolis.
Yeah, right on.
Hey, final question for you. As you look at what you're doing with GANGGANG, that model, if you will, have you received interest from other places, other cities, inquiring about your services, or is this a bigger picture, looking at maybe replicating this model, this idea in other cities?
Yeah, I think so. We've already have started some work nationally in other cities. I mean, so yes. I mean, a lot of people, a lot of cities, artists, government, are looking at Indianapolis as like, how did you do that? Right. And just like, so what did that take? And just, I mean, so it's a beautiful, season to be in, where there's so many, eyes, but there's definitely a best practice sharing opportunity as it relates to successes and some of the achievements that, Indianapolis has been able to make and within our strides over the past 2 or 3 years.
Well, Alan, I can't thank you enough for taking time at a very busy time for you, certainly, to join me on the podcast. And congratulations to you and Molly on the success at GANGGANG. I know it's only beginning, but your efforts and that vision you have and certainly have had really making a difference for our city, and certainly appreciate that. Thanks very much.
No, thank you so much, Gary, and I appreciate all the work that you do as well, brother.
All right. Alan Bacon, co-founder at GANGGANG, my guest this week on the Business and Beyond podcast. It is a weekly conversation with achievers in business, sports, entertainment, and beyond. You can download all of our episodes and also get Indiana business news 24/7. All you have to do is go to InsideIndianaBusiness.com. I'm Gary Dick. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.